Hi guys, welcome to this new video. Today I would like to take a moment to answer some of your most frequently asked questions. These are the questions I see pretty much on a weekly basis, especially when someone new subscribes to the channel. These seem to be the topics that you guys are most interested in or most curious about. So let's answer some of those questions in today's video. And let's just jump straight into it. And I'm gonna start with the first question, or sort of a group of questions about the technical part of this balcony garden. So where it's located, what's the growing zone, what are the dimensions, what floor it's on, and all that. So let's start right from the beginning. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Dominika, I'm a horticulturist, and I also happen to be a balcony gardener. I've been gardening on this balcony for about, I would say, 8 to 9 years now, and my garden is located in France. Now, I'm not French. That also seems to be the very common confusion. Whenever I say to people I garden in France, people are like, you don't sound French, how come? You sound German, you sound Dutch. So my garden is located in France, and that's the only relevant information. We are zone 8 here. We have hot and humid summers, and when I say hot, I mean hot. Last year in the shade we reached 42-43 degrees Celsius, so it gets pretty hot in here. And then we have cold winters. Just this past winter the temperatures remained at around -6, -7, -8 degrees Celsius, so it does get pretty cold in winter here as well. My garden is northeast facing, so it receives only a couple of hours of sunlight in summer in the morning, and the sun comes from this direction, so only parts of the balcony receive that morning sunlight. For example, the entire back of the balcony is in full shade, and then those plants that are kind of on this side, like you can see here my hydrangea, these plants also don't receive any direct sunlight because they are kind of in the shadow of all of these other plants. So it's kind of a mix of a shade and partial shade. Then my balcony is on the 7th floor and it's uncovered. I mean, there is a teeny tiny roof just above, but it doesn't really provide any actual protection. So it's exposed from all sides, it's exposed to all kinds of weather conditions. And then as for the dimensions of this balcony, it's about 13.5 meters long, so it's pretty long, but then it's quite narrow. It's only 1.3 meters wide. So total makes about 17.5 meters square. So I think I mentioned all when it comes to that technical part. So now let's move to the second question, which is about the weight limit. Alright, so the weight limit or the weight capacity, very important information. If you're an owner, you should have it written in your ownership regulations. If you're a renter, it might be a good idea to ask your landlord for that information because it is quite important. But it's also important to remember that that weight limit or that weight capacity will change, will vary depending on the country, depending on the building, the type of building, the year it was constructed, and also the size of your balcony. So it's going to be different for each and every one of us. So usually that weight limit, at least here in Europe, it's about 250 kilograms per meter square. Now I've seen balconies with a weight limit of 350 kilograms per meter square and 150 kilograms per meter square. But for me personally, and here it's very important information, well, I call it a balcony garden, right? Because essentially that's what it is. It's a large balcony garden. But technically, it's not a balcony, it's a terrace. So, with balconies, usually they are suspended kind of in the air and you have other balconies directly below. Here it's a terrace. It sits in the building and directly below you have apartments. So first things first, it's not a balcony. So the rules, let's say, that apply for most balconies will not apply for me because it's a terrace, and those weight limits or weight capacity may vary just because it's a terrace, right? But to be very precise, in my building, they don't place any weight limit neither on balconies nor on terraces. So technically there is no weight limit that I have to kind of respect. But at the same time, obviously, if you look at my balcony from kind of above, you will see that I created a sort of a pathway, and when I place plants on one side, I usually leave the other side empty, so I kind of try to balance it out. And then I know how much my plants weigh, and I have maybe 3-4 pots that are a little bit heavier, like for example these tuyas, these evergreens. These are a little bit heavy because obviously they have larger containers, terracotta pots, but then the rest of it is pretty lightweight. Even when the soil is fully saturated, I'm nowhere near 250 kilograms per meter square here. But then again, as I said, there is no official weight limit that I have to respect. Okay, next question is how come you don't use saucers? And now there are a couple of reasons for that. Reason number one, as I said, my balcony is uncovered. So whenever it rains, and it rains quite a bit in here, especially during fall, winter and spring, but even now in early summer, like for example between April and May, it rained so much. It rained every single day for the past like 3 weeks maybe. So the only place where I use saucers on my balcony are these railing planters, because I don't want water to be going outside the balcony and to, you know, go down the building wall or to, you know, make mess. So I'm using saucers in here, but this is a nightmare because, you know, when it rains so much, I have to go out here every single day and pour the water out of each one of these saucers. So now imagine I had to do the same for all the plants that I have. That would be just undoable. I couldn't possibly go out here and pour water every single day out of every single saucer that I would potentially have on my balcony. So that's the reason why I don't use them, because I don't want my plants to be standing in water and then to cause my plants to rot. But I know where it leads. It leads to the next question that you guys also ask very often. Then how does the drainage work on this balcony? Do you flood your neighbors? Does the water from all these plants go down to your neighbors? So no. The short answer is no, it doesn't. I don't flood my neighbors. As you can see, the balcony is kind of enclosed, and how it works, I have these concrete tiles on the floor, and you have some empty spaces in between these tiles, so the water drains through these empty spaces in between the tiles, and then it's just accumulates below the balcony, and then it's evacuated directly into the gutters. So this is a very convenient system. It's a system that I've seen on most balconies and terraces here in France, but I know that for most of you guys this isn't the case, and unfortunately you are forced to use saucers because otherwise the water will be running down to your neighbors. So I can say that I'm very lucky to have this system that allows me to not have to use saucers. I mean, this is a huge convenience, but also it's not all perfect. Like for example, the huge inconvenience that I have on this balcony is that I don't have any water source. So when I want to water my plants, I have to run to my kitchen back and forth, either with a watering can or to plug a hose to my kitchen tap. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't be able to water my plants because there is no tap on this balcony. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. This next question I usually get either from beginner gardeners, people who just start their journey with plants, or from new subscribers, or generally people new to gardening. So people often ask, do you buy new plants all the time? Do you change plants all the time? Do you keep some plants from year to year? How does it look? So those of you who have been following me for a while probably know this already, that this garden is mostly perennial. I would estimate it's about 80% perennial. So I keep plants from year to year. I have plants that are perennial, so they die down to the ground level in the fall, in late fall, and then they come back again in the spring. And then I have also quite a number of evergreen plants. Not only they are winter hardy, but they also keep their foliage during winter, and they provide beautiful winter interest. So the majority of these plants that you see here are perennial, winter hardy. They survive winter in my growing zone, and I've been growing them for years. But then I do have a small part that I kind of reserve for seasonal planting, for annual planting, you know, just to try something new each year, just to change it up a little bit. But this part is like very, very small compared to the majority of this balcony that is indeed perennial. Next very interesting question, what's your monthly budget for plants? Now, I don't have a monthly budget for plants because I just don't buy plants all that often. I don't even have a yearly budget for plants because as I just mentioned, most of this is perennial. So there's only that 20% part that's seasonal, that's annual, that changes, and that's basically the only thing I spend my money on. And then if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I'm all about gardening on a budget, and you know, I always encourage people grow plants from seeds. Even if you're gonna plant just 3-4 containers, it's still worth, you know, buying seeds, growing plants yourself, then grow plants from bulbs and from tubers. If you're gonna add some perennial to your garden, buy it as a buried perennial. I sound like a broken tape saying that, but I always say, you know, you can get your hands on many more interesting varieties, and it saves you some money. So I practice what I preach, and I also do it on a budget. I don't really go to a garden center and just buy plants spontaneously. I think ahead of time, know what I would like to grow on my balcony this year. And if I want to grow some flowers, to try something new that I haven't tried before, as I said, I either buy seeds and grow it myself from seeds, or I buy some bulbs and tubers, and these are really inexpensive, and you can buy it in bulk, so you can get like a bag of 20-30 bulbs for a couple of euros. So it's cheaper this way, and you can end up with many more plants. And for example, like with these planters, for example, these are seasonal, right? The railing planters, just an example. So I know I will be changing them probably next week. So this year I want to grow some begonias and some other annual flowers. So those annual flowers, I'm gonna go and buy them in the nursery, so directly from a grower. That's cheaper this way. And then I also grow some of the plants that I'm gonna use myself. I bought a whole bunch of begonia bulbs, begonia tubers. If I were, let's say, to buy those begonias at the garden center or at the nursery, I would have to pay like 5-6 euro per begonia. And buying bulbs, I paid like 60-70 cents per tuber. So, you know, that really cuts the cost, and you can do it on a budget if you want to. And I'm all for it. Like, I don't want to spend a ton of money on plants. I want to enjoy growing them, but also do it on a budget. How many pots do you have? I have absolutely no idea. Trust me, I've never counted them, not even once, because I don't really care. I know that there are some people who are like trying to reach a certain number. I'm not one of those people. I don't care about the numbers. I just want to create a beautiful, small, beautiful little garden. So I have absolutely no idea. I mean, it's pointless, I think, to count them because it changes all the time. As I said, I do grow some seasonal plants, and then I don't always use all the containers that I have. There are some years when I want to grow more spring bulbs, for example. There are years where I grow less spring bulbs, more summer tubers. So it really changes depending on the season, depending on the year. I don't always use all the pots that I have. So I have absolutely no idea. How many pots do I have right now? And the last question, what would you say is your biggest challenge on this balcony? And if you asked me that question 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would have answered shade. I was a little bit upset about gardening in the shade. I felt like I could grow nothing, you know, especially when you compare yourself to people who have sunny balconies, who grow beautiful flowers and edibles and all, and you're kind of stuck in your shade with your hostas. But now, you know, with experience and with a little bit of patience, I absolutely enjoy my shady garden, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything, and I wouldn't exchange my shady garden for any other sunny garden. But my biggest challenge, definitely wind. I cannot stand wind. This just makes me physically nervous. Like, spring is our windiest season, and I'm just like so stressed, and I just don't want to even go out in my garden in the spring because it's just so damn windy. We have wind gusts to about 80 kilometers per hour, and no matter what you do, no matter how well you protect your plants, there will always be some damage. There will always be some broken pots, some broken trees, some broken flowers. And you know, it just takes one day, and or even more, it takes one wind gust to just, all your hard work that you've done over the past months just can go in vain just in that one short moment. And it's just so frustrating, you know, especially when you have trees like, for example, this Japanese maple that's absolutely stunning. And you know, you've grown it for so many years, you've taken care of it for so many years, and then all of a sudden you see that maple being tossed across the balcony and being shattered into several pieces. You know what I mean? That's just really heartbreaking, to be honest with you. So yeah, wind is definitely the biggest challenge. It's something that I just cannot stand. Alright, so that's it. These are all the most frequently asked questions. Hope that you guys found some answers, maybe to some questions you were always wanting to ask but never dared to ask. Hope that this video was enjoyable. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see each other in the next one.